built into that metacognition and that ownership. But it does take a while, you know, for those kids that are not exposed to using that performance standards as an assessment tool to get it. But one of the things my students have said is that I love the performance standards because it self-regulates, and it's not an elastic band or anything, but it self-regulates me to understand my metacognition as an academic learner. Because there's a couple of learning things here. There's the behavioral expectation and there's the academic learning intention. So it's divided. So you might just want to tweak and ask those questions, you know, over the years, and it's always working for you as a learner. And if they're not saying anything, you might tweak your question a little bit more.
Can you share those two? Is that what you just did, to share the 2 or 3 questions that we as parents can be asking? Because I mean, that's something that would be great to see in our newsletter coming home to the parents. It's just that, I mean, the whole evening is about that, is engaging parents in this conversation. Right?
And what does the e-portfolios look like and things like that?
Yeah, and the work that we're doing at the community level in early childhood development is trying to extend that personal portfolio and actually calling a family album. And so that it recognizes not just the individual, but that this person, young person, is part of a family. And what's going on in that family that's going to influence what's happening in the classroom or in early childhood development center. And be able to share that information, again, just like your portfolio going from grade 2 to grade 5 or whatever. This family album also travels with this student as a young person.
That's a fantastic idea.
Start at Strong Start.
Really great.
And going into kindergarten and preschool or whatever, but it's your e-portfolio where you'll take snapshots of here's some math patterning at that time, and here's a flip book, and here's a word.
And we would extend it to say he was living with his grandma this year, and next year we were back home with his mom, and then next year, you know, whatever that is, just so you see this young person as this, you know, a full.
And the other thing that we have to, I think we're moving is a celebration. And so I think we are moving past a point again of labeling kids and putting them into categories. And we are truly celebrating all learners. And I think that is a very important point, that for too long we have categorized children into ways that are not as helpful to their self-esteem, and I think that to celebrate that, and so we are responsible then to pull, if Chris is doing this critical work in early childhood, and we get these precious children coming to our doors with this huge celebration, then it is our responsibility to continue the celebration, and so we celebrate, and so we are hoping that every student truly feels celebratory about how they learn, and so that would be a huge shift also in some of our thinking. And again, that is very supported in the research on neurodiversity. Very supported in the research. So I think these have been terrific conversations, and
I love it. Open door policy, come in anytime. Seriously, anytime. You're in the building, pop in.
So how long will it take for the system to be in place in all the schools? We could look at 5 years?
In a perfect world, 5 years would be amazing, but it is a bit of a process.
I don't know, I think it's moving faster than I thought it was going to. People like John Blaine and I joke about, you can do it in Nanaimo, you can do it anywhere. Like, I was born and raised here, I'm not making Nanaimo, I'm just saying there's a little bit of a political tone here that sometimes is hard to move, but we are moving, and we are moving faster than I thought we were going to be able to move. And when I talk about celebrations there every day, I can probably name 3 different classrooms I've been in that are celebrations. And once you start working with one teacher in a school, you start with a willing teacher, and then you go to 2, then you go to 3. I think that things are moving faster than I thought it was going to happen in the family.
So most of the teachers are on board with this, are they? Or are they going to fight it? Or?
They're learning about it. They're learning about it and, naming it.
I see when I start to talk about reducing teacher stress, I see a significant reduction in teacher stress, and I'm going to start to have videotape. The other thing I'd like to do next year is to do some physiological monitoring of heart rates to show how significant reducing teacher stress is going to be. Because I look at some of these teachers, this teacher that Lynn and I talked about, like honestly, she went from the day we were in there, the next day we went in there, she was almost floating. And it was like, what? Like, what a change. And we're seeing change after change after change like that on a daily basis. And I think that those, it's hard to say in a time, but all I'm saying is when I came here in the fall, I went, whoa, this is going to be hard. And I'm seeing that it's not going to be as hard as I thought.
Right, so what's your trigger for going into the classroom? Is it the teacher invite or is it parent invite?
Lots of teachers are inviting. Often my process is I have in-serviced almost every school in my classroom at Seaview. And from that, I will get an invitation usually from one or two teachers to come in, and that's usually how I get invited in, is by people visiting my room and then saying, gosh, will you come into my room? And so that's usually the invitation, but you can, it happens many ways. It can happen through a principal, but usually it's a teacher, because if a teacher invites us in, then that's your invitation in. And we have worked very hard in response to intervention to make sure that teachers try to get this is not evaluation, or we are in there to support teachers. And that has been relatively new here, that we're going into classrooms and supporting teachers. So I bend over backwards to make sure that teachers feel that it is a warm and welcoming. So that's Lynn's role as an instructional coordinator. That's a learning coach. So we've established those positions. So they are very, the invitations are usually from.
It's a shoulder tap or an email.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm just wondering about this. I'd like to try this strategy. Can you come in and help me?
Yeah, so it's cool. It's happening. And then I'm
So when they graduate from grade 12, they'll be going into university, obviously, and will they have to have marks or something for entry into university, or?
Mark.
Yeah.
And we're, as you say, there would still be the standard reporting system through the Ministry of Education, that your children would have their marks, but there are many universities that are moving in this direction around 21st century learning also, that we are again moving toward this concept of students owning their own learning. That when I went to school, I went into a class, I was given a syllabus, and I was told that you get an A if you do these things, and I wrotely regurgitated through my master's degree to get straight A's, and wrotely regurgitation didn't get me. And so we're trying to move out of that into this concept of deeper understanding. And so many of the universities are moving toward 21st century learning and looking at deeper understanding and students owning their own learning. So very much moving in that direction.
But they'll still get their report card.
Yeah, it's a legal.
Everything will be the same in
I
that
think what they're
regard.
saying is it's another layer here. On top of everything that's already happening, it's a layer on top.
It's
not
how of the report cards, because if you went to your children tonight and said, hey, I see you have a B+ in science, what we want those children to be able to articulate exactly how they get that, what they would do differently, what their learning is like, how would they write up a science experiment, what would they do differently, what technology they'd use. So it's all about. And I know that for my own kids, if I've asked them that, sometimes I get, I don't know, I'll get that, I don't know. And so I don't want to hear, I don't know. I want them to be self-advocates, I want them to be in charge of their learning, and I want them to know how they learn.
It's interesting, my daughter worked just got their report cards, and it was her best report card ever, so it's very exciting. So we're all celebrating. She goes, but you haven't seen anything that long.
Aww, love that.
Celebration.
That's a nice way to end
It totally
it.
was.
Love that.
Before she would try and hide them, didn't want to engage in any discussion, and it was so neat to see her
So something.
take it to the next
Yeah.
level. Something
Oh,
Yeah,
so
remember
good.
what's going
I
on
mean, despite
right-
today,
Yeah.
I had to sit on my hands and not go rescue her because
Everybody has a
Well, yeah,
bad
yes.
day.
The bad days still
It
happen.
was neat to see for the first time that, like Sarah can attest to this kid being engaged in learning and engaged in her learning.
Yeah, for those who don't know the context, your daughter switched schools.
Yes, yes.
Part of that.
Part of that.
So what we hope, if we got a call like that from a young person, that we would be able to strategize with the school to determine if there was a place that she could go, so we are hoping that we would,
Yes, and the teacher actually did give her kudos for really working through and expressing what she needed, that by 2 o'clock she was done.
And some days you're done.
Yeah,
Yep.
so.
awesome.
Yeah,
So terrific conversations.
It's so fun. We should do this once a month.
Well, we'll be doing it again on April 9th.
And what's the topic then, April the 9th?
Okay, so April 9th, our last of the symposium, we gotta have more.
Yeah, so.
I guess spread it to the
Is,
schools.
is quite timely because we're in a process now where we as a staff have actually spent since the end of August talking about 21st century learning and a model that we would be applying for next year in this building. And we put out the requests, I guess, and we have a number of teachers who have said, I want to teach in that model. I want to be a part of building that model. I will be prepared to come forth and come up with some ideas. I'm prepared to work collaboratively to make that happen. I'm also prepared to work within the community and work with partners to be able to make that happen. Our plan is to have that up and running with kids in it by next February. So what that gives us is a chance in the first semester to be able to build it, and to be able to work with those students, identify those students at the end of this year, potentially, and say, who's going to be involved in this program, how big is it going to be, what's the container size going to look like, and then we're going to be able to say, for the first semester, maybe there's some courses you need to prepare for here, maybe as a cohort moving through, as you move yourself into that new model. Our hope is that eventually that model will be something that will continue on throughout the year. We're building something. So April 9th, we will have a working model for you to show what that's going to look like. Hopefully we'll have a pretty nice PowerPoint. And hopefully we'll be able to unveil or introduce you to the teachers that will be working within that model. So we're excited. That's April 9th. We talk about the library a lot, but we're hoping that we'll be able to host that in the 21st Century Learning Room, which will be the hub of that space. So April 9th. Pretty excited.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for all their.
Yeah. Thank you, Brenda. That was great.
Thank you, Lacey, for being very hosting.
Yes, that was terrific. Yeah.
26 minutes early.
Oh, look at that.
Thanks very much.
What's new on the Dover website?
I said that first.
Probably the airplane.